All right, we're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order right on time. It's a beautiful day, and if we run this meeting well, maybe we can get out while the sun's still shining. Let's do it. So let's start out with a roll call.
All right. Ms. Grzymkowski.
Present.
Mr. Dimick.
Here.
Ms. Ryan.
Here.
Mr. Wiseman.
Here.
Ms. Cotter.
I'm here.
I am here. Ms. Dodd.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, thank you. If you're able, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, thank you. Before we can begin, we need to approve the agenda. Do I have an emotion to approve, not an emotion, a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you. Support?
I'll support it.
Support from Cotter, wonderful. Any discussion? Okay, let's take a roll call vote, please.
Ms. Grzymkowski.
Yes.
Ms. Cotter.
Yes.
I am a yes. Ms. Ryan.
Yes.
Mr. Wiseman.
Yes.
Mr. Dimick.
Yes.
Ms. Dodd.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you. We'll start out with items from the board president. I'm going to start out with hopefully an abbreviated version of my public comment. Everyone from the public is welcome to share public comments at our board meetings. We have two sections, one in Section 3 and one in Section 7. The one in Section 3 is for agenda items only, and the one in Section 7 for non-agenda items. If you're interested in giving public comment, there are public comment forms over by the door. Please deliver them to Ms. Cadell, and we will take it from there. Other items from the board president, I do want to share that we have community forums coming up on March 24th. From 6 to 7:30 at Heritage Elementary, and March 25th, also from 6 to 7:30 at Lakewood Elementary. These have been shared in Education Matters, in the school newsletters, on our digital billboards, and social media. Unlike our board meeting, where we're really in business mode, and public is welcome to make comments, the community forums are designed for us to be able to have conversations and sit down and discuss thoughts, ideas, concerns, hopes, dreams with people in our community. So these are meant to be one-on-one conversations with a board member and a member of the community. So we hope to see you there if you have things you'd like to discuss. Again, on March 24th at Heritage and March 25th at Lakewood from 6 to 7:30. Next, I attended the National School Board Association Advocacy Institute, and I promised at our last meeting that I would just give a brief overview of that at tonight's meeting. So this is just a quick overview of that time, and we can do the next slide. There we go, and that's so tiny. This is a list of all the people from Oakland County who attended. My name is second from the bottom on the left-hand side. I was the only person from Huron Valley who attended this year, but I was joined with some school board colleagues from Oakland schools, also from Troy, Walled Lake, Berkeley, Birmingham, Bloomfield Hills, Farmington, Hazel Park, and Lamphere. The Michigan delegation was the largest delegation at the NSBA Advocacy Institute. Which was very nice to see. We always have a very active group, and the Michigan Association of School Boards does an excellent job getting us ready for the event. Next slide. So here's some pictures. The picture on the left is of the delegation from Oakland County, and the picture on the right, Washington, D.C., a week before we got there, got just pummeled with snow, ice, snow, ice, snow, ice. And they canceled school for a week. The snow and ice was still there when we were there. It was as if the shovels were just not enough. And this pile of snow was about 10 feet tall, and we decided to climb it because that's what school board members do. When they're at the Capitol, we do anything for our kids. So it was an interesting time in D.C., and the snow, even though the kids stayed home, we had quite a few of our presenters and people who couldn't get in because of the snow. But we were still able to do the work and meet with folks and learn a lot while we were there. So the conference schedule, and this is quite an exciting PowerPoint because everything's just flying in. So the Sunday and Monday of this Advocacy Institute are really opportunities for us as a group to learn and work together. So we have a couple of breakout sessions, keynote speakers. We learn specifically about NASB's advocacy priorities and how to discuss those, what the best practices are for working with your legislators on how to come to some consensus on what we need. We had an Oakland County planning dinner where we figured out who's going to speak when we went on the Hill on Tuesday. Monday, again, some breakout session. There were some award lunch. There was a lunch with awards. Another breakout session, a closing general session, and then the K-12 Alliance, which is an organization that we're part of, hosted a reception on Capitol Hill where staffers from the people who are elected to represent us in Michigan, their staffers come, some of the elected representatives come, and it's an opportunity for us to have more casual dialogue and conversation with them. But it just so happens that we were there during the shutdown. So pretty much no one except for Lisa McLean attended our K-12 Alliance event on the Hill this year, and Lisa McLean was given an award as Champion for Children Award from the K-12 Alliance at that event. One of the things I will say about advocacy and our work with them, so Lisa McLean's pictured here with me, and then we have Senators Slotkin and Peters, who both met with us on Tuesday when we were on the Hill. And Congresswoman McLean has really done a lot of work to learn about public education. The senator, or the Congresswoman McLean I met with 3 years ago is very different, has a very different understanding and appreciation for public education than she did 3 years ago. She's done some work. She's really happy to support the full funding of IDEA and some of the other very important things that we need in order to be successful. She's in a leadership role at this point, so she cannot co-sponsor bills anymore. That's not a thing she does. But she is supportive of that, of getting at a hearing, which we haven't had a hearing about the full funding of IDEA in a very, very long time. And the support from her office and leadership and some of the other representatives in the state of Michigan. Congressman Huizinga from West Michigan is the chair of the committee that needs to bring this hearing forward. And this is the first year we've heard a willingness to do that. So advocacy is like going back and saying the same thing over and over and over again and hoping the story you bring or the person you bring with you or the information you share is eventually going to move the needle a little bit. It is challenging work, but we have definitely seen with Congresswoman McLean a willingness to work together to learn and to support some areas that are really important for our schools on the federal level. We can go to the next slide. So the issues that we talked about, so the NSBA issues and the Michigan issues, I'm just going to go through them really quickly. So every year when I give this presentation, I talk about IDEA and the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. So IDEA was passed a little over 50 years ago, and it required public schools to educate every student. And then a bunch of laws kind of came into that to make our special education world and our education world what it is today. Least restrictive environment, all of those sort of things all kind of go together with IDEA. When that was passed over 50 years ago, the federal government said, we'll foot 40% of the bill, and the states need to foot the other 60% of the bill. The federal government has never paid more than 20% for their share of this, and right now we're hovering around 11%. So when we talk about full funding for IDEA, we're not talking about 100%, we're talking about getting to that 40% that they promised a little over 50 years ago. And we keep talking about it. We're going to keep talking about it every instance we can, because schools like us, we don't have the money coming in for IDEA and for some of these other programs that we need, so then that comes out of the general fund in order to make it right. We are legally required to provide these services, but unfortunately, we're not getting compensated to do that, as we should from all levels. We talked about public funds for public schools, so making sure that's a big National School Board Association focus is keeping public money in public schools. Talked about educator workforce and shortages, and that those shortages aren't just in educators, they're in all areas of public education, from bus drivers, substitute teachers, special education, custodial, really across the board. We're looking at workforce shortages, and in for-profit companies, when they have workforce shortages, they raise wages. And unfortunately, that's not something we can necessarily do in this situation. So we had a lot of conversations about that. We talked about continued funding for career and technical education. This is certainly an area where we see a lot of movement from both sides of the aisle being supportive of career and tech education, which is a good thing to see. We talked about digital equity, cyberspace, and E-rate. So the E-rate program is one that has been under scrutiny for the last few years about cutting the E-rate program and doing some things. For our school, every time we vote on something related to E-rate, I always bring it up because it's a program that really helps lower the bar for accessibility to really important connectivity. So during the pandemic, for example, we were able to provide hotspots for some of our families who weren't able to afford connectivity at home due to E-rate. So there's a lot of that that's important that we were advocating for. Of course, we were advocating for school safety and mental health, and also school nutrition guidelines. And something I had not been paying attention to when I went to DC is this new movement for whole foods, whole cooking in schools. And it's part of some things that have come out of the federal government and the FDA, that they would like to see more whole food cooking, less processed food in our school cafeterias. And it was interesting to hear the people from our delegation who were a little more ahead of this than I was, talking about our ability as in the current state of our buildings to do this, and asking for some grandfathering in, instead of just saying, hey, on April 1st, 2026, you need to do this. Understanding that we have schools that don't have fully functional kitchens. We have warming kitchens in a lot of our buildings. And there are some districts where the whole district has warming kitchens. They don't have a full kitchen. And so it's the idea of whole foods and whole nutrition for kids is something that seems like a great idea and seems like a smart thing to do, but our footprints of our school don't allow that. So is there funding that could be allocated to help us build these kitchens and make this a thing that we can do? Also, some conversations about laws that are misaligned right now as it relates to school nutrition. We have fat content rules, but then we also have a push for whole fat milk and dairy. And if we give a kid a whole fat milk at lunch, that takes away all of the fat they can have for a day. And we have two laws fighting with themselves right now that we're having to contend with in schools. So helping get some clarity and some answers on that in our advocacy. So it was an interesting trip, interesting things happening. We were reminded by some of the representatives that we talked to that last year at this time, we really didn't know where education was going to go, if the education department was going to be gone, if it was still going to be here. And now we're at a point where we know a little bit more. And every day that goes by, there's a little bit more, but we can't sleep on advocacy. We have to advocate as much as we can, and not just from this seat, but from your seats and from everybody at home. Advocacy is one of the most important things you can do. And making sure your voice is heard. I've been in representative's office where the person answering the phone takes their tally mark. And at the end of the day, they give their tally mark for, hey, this is the issue. And today we heard from 80 people who want this and 60 people who are opposed. And that is data that helps them make decisions. So advocacy, calling, writing, all of that sort of stuff is super important if you're interested in learning more. I like to nerd out about this stuff, so you call anytime. I'm happy to talk to anybody, anywhere about any of this advocacy stuff, because it's interesting to learn how all of this comes to be and what we can do to be supportive. So with that, I am finished with my president's comments, and we'll move on to recognition.
We don't have any recognitions this evening, Madam President,
Or school presentations?
or school presentations.
All right, then I'm moving on to you.
Thank you, Madam President. Trying to make good on your promise to get us out of here before it's dark out. Oh, that's not being critical of you.
I know, listen,
Yeah,
I took
yeah.
up a little time.
No, it's all good. I've got a few things this evening as well. So Thursday to Saturday, if you're not too busy, First Robotics is having a competition, and I'm sure our Hot 67 team is going to do wonderfully, as they always do. I am excited to be there on Saturday and just kick off the event and welcoming everyone to Milford High School. So I'm sure it's going to be a great event, and hopefully you can be there. I wanted to take a moment and acknowledge Tammy Eldridge in our business office. Received a letter today on behalf of the Michigan school business officials stating that Tammy has met all the requirements for certification under the MSBO Voluntary Certification Program and has earned the School Payroll Specialist certification. So just congratulations to Tammy. I know how much time and energy and effort that takes outside of your normal workday, which is pretty demanding as it is, and just congratulations on that accomplishment to Tammy. Tomorrow evening, we have a board study session, and I sent you a lot of homework, a request for homework this weekend. This is one of those things that I'm reminded of why we say thank you to the board in January for Board Appreciation Month, because they get a lot of reading to do that is ancillary to just one board meeting a month. So for those who are in the listening audience, I would say they received at least 8 pages of 10 font, line item by line item, budget expenditures for consideration for our board study session tomorrow. I want to thank the board members that had some questions that sent those on to me between a Friday evening and today. I was able to put together a Q&A document and provide responses to those questions. So I will continue to update questions as they come in between now and tomorrow evening. So my ask for tomorrow, because I haven't had all seven of you in one place at the same time. So when you're looking at that document, remember, there are largely 3 buckets when we think about school funding. There's our general fund, 85% of which goes to our collective bargaining agreements, and the board establishes direction on those CBAs through the bargaining process. You provide parameters for us as a district. We go in, we negotiate not to exceed the parameters that you ask us to follow. That is 85% of our budget. So what I presented to you is not the 85%. Those are largely fixed costs. Now that said, however, it's important to note that when you walk through those 8 pages of line items, you recognize that that's only 15% of our budget, and there's not a lot. I mean, you're probably arriving at the conclusion that there's not a ton there, right? But what's important is when you're thinking about our budget, it's not just here and now for the 26-27 school year. When you think about our budget, you almost have to be thinking about a 2-year or a 3-year contract, because next year we will negotiate again. And so if there are things that you're unsure about this year as it relates to the 26-27 budget, those are things that would need to be brought forward through the parameter setting process with the larger aspect of the operation, which is the 85% of our budget. So there are key positions that you might want to look at, when you're thinking about the, collective bargaining agreement process into the future. But for purposes of our exercise tomorrow, will be largely on the 15%, and then our state and federal grants in particular. I asked you to try and prioritize 5 to 10, a list of 5 to 10 items that you want to talk about. Those are not items that you think we should cut. I want to be really clear on, that's not what you're, by wanting to discuss a line item, that doesn't suggest that you want to cut the line item. It means you want greater knowledge. You want to hear from your colleagues about that line item. And through that exercise, that will give us as an administrative team a sense of the board's consensus around big topics. So when we present you with a budget in June, we have a good sense of where the board is at on a number of these topics. Okay? Does that make sense? Speaking of budgets, this is budget season, and as you might recall, last school year was somewhat of a fiasco in terms of the way with which the legislature handled the budget. They were not talking with each other, the House, the Senate, and the governor. They were coming up with budgets that really weren't serious, and frankly, they were steeped in political fodder. It put school districts in a very difficult position because we had to pass our budget in June, but we did not have any sense of what our budget would look like until October 1st. And then there was all this legal interpretation of certain aspects of the budget and how you qualified for certain funds. And it was kind of a debacle straight from the beginning. So I sit on the K-12 Alliance board, and one of the things we discussed at our Friday meeting was the importance of the legislature getting this budget done on time, being reasonable and responsible with one another, actually having conversations with each other and debating these important topics that impact school funding. And so I just want to share the 5 key talking points here that I think we as a school district should be promoting. First and foremost, we need a budget done on time. We need our legislators to get along with one another well enough, regardless of their party affiliation, and sit down and have conversations about school funding on time. 2, we must ensure that the transfer of dollars from the school aid fund is reduced or stopped completely. To give you some context, the governor's budget has $1.7 billion being sent to higher education. Those school aid fund dollars were always supposed to go to K-12 schools. That's $1,200 per pupil that we lose a year in dollars that are sent to higher education. So, and that was the governor's proposal. We need the Senate and the House not to follow that suit. 2 or 3, schools cannot keep up the level of programming we are providing when our year-to-year funding doesn't even keep up with the rate of inflation. Everybody wants school districts to do everything that we're doing without a single dollar more or less, and that is impossible. I think we all know that from managing our own personal budgets. If you have the same revenue coming in this year as you did 10 years ago, you were not affording everything that needs to be afforded today. The same is true with schools. And finally, the budget process must return to being one of transparency this year, not a deal negotiated behind closed doors that neither the education community nor the majority of lawmakers see until minutes before they're asked to vote on it. That was one of my biggest frustrations in last year's budget. When you asked a policymaker, why did you support 31AA having all those strings attached? They would say, I didn't even read it. I didn't know. I had to vote on it within 5 minutes of my receiving the 120-page budget bill. I know as a superintendent working with 7 board members, if I gave you something 5 minutes before a board meeting and asked you to vote on it, it wouldn't bode well. So we should expect better from our policymakers and expect them to work together. This is their one big job, is to get this done and to get it done the right way without playing partisan politics. So my final 2 items are the 2026 summer device refresh. And I'd like to invite Mr. Scott Endicott to the podium to talk about that item, and then our CFO, Mr. Jeffrey Van Gothen, will cover the final item under my comments this evening.
Good evening, everyone. I'm on board with getting us out of here before it turns dark, too. So this is one thing I'm very excited about, so I'll be as quick as possible. Thanks for your time. Have some fantastic news to share regarding our summer device refresh. We often come to you with complex challenges or questions. This time, it's to celebrate a kind of a financial win for the district, one made possible by our proactive planning in addition to this board's decisive action. Went too far, didn't I? All right, to set the stage, let's look at where we were a few months ago. Heading into this purchasing cycle for the summer, our forecast was looking incredibly volatile in terms of the device market. We're hearing credible warnings across the industry of impending price hikes in the range of 15 to 30%. Given this, we made the strategic decision to accelerate our purchasing timeline to beat those increases and protect our expenditures. That's where your leadership came into play. We brought our accelerated purchasing recommendations to you earlier than normal this year at the February 9th board meeting. You listened to our analysis, trusted our expertise, and acted swiftly by granting a one-read approval, something we don't like to bring to you and we don't do lightly. That single decision, however, allowed us to immediately lock in our summer pricing and secure the 1,450 devices we need for this summer. And we're incredibly thankful that you did. On February 27th, the new REMC contract pricing was released. REMC is a yearly statewide device bid consortium. The best prices are to be had on REMC. We normally purchase via that consortium every summer. It turns out those warnings of 15 to 30% were a massive underestimation. Across the board, the actual cost for the specific Chromebooks and laptops we require jumped by a staggering 56.77%. Because of our early lock-in, our district was completely insulated from this spike, in addition to avoiding purchasing delays caused by supply chain issues. And the good slide is here. Let's look at what that means for our bottom line. Thanks to the early approval, our total cost for the summer deployment was $498,131. If we had waited to purchase our devices under the new REMC pricing, the cost for the same devices would have been $780,938. So by acting when we did, we realized a direct hard dollar savings of $282,807. And you can all agree that that's a pretty big deal for our district. These are, and this is small print, but I'll tell you what these are. These are actual examples taken from emails from an email group of tech directors across the state. These are some districts are caught by delivery delays. Others are buying fewer devices than necessary based on the cost increases. We're very happy to not be in either of those positions, but it is a real situation that a lot of districts are still dealing with. So moving forward, our summer deployment will be ahead of schedule as the devices have already been received. We've received every device. Our students and staff will get the top-tier technology they deserve, and we achieved it with exceptional fiscal responsibility. So I want to personally thank this board for your partnership. Your trust and agility quite literally saved the district over $250,000, so thank you. And if you have any questions, I'm glad to answer questions.
We have questions. Ms. Grisomkowski and then Mr. Dimick.
Thank you. This was, when you came to us, I think in TLT, we had this discussion, and I like a good deal. I always like a good deal. $282,000 is really nothing for us to sneeze at. That's $282,000 we can put back into the classroom. These are already assisting in our classroom. So well done. Thank you for being proactive. Thank you for looking forward and looking out for the district. we are a one-to-one district. We don't have the option of saying, well, we're just going to forego this cycle. It just doesn't work like that for us anymore. So well done, and thank you. Good work.
Thank you.
Mr. Dimick?
I was mostly just going to kind of follow along the lines with what Amy said. A tremendous job, forecasting that, being in touch with the right people, and getting it to us. So that's a very big win. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It's a good thing you network with your colleagues.
Thank you, Scott. Great
Okay,
job.
Thanks.
And last up under superintendent comments would be our first and second quarter budget amendment, and we are going to ask you to take action on that under the consent agenda, and Mr. Van Gotham is going to present that this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Salah. So if we could pull up the presentation. Next slide for me. So we'll take a quick walk here. We've had the last two audited years showing revenues over expenditures of 2.5 and just under $1 million. The board, again, as Dr. Salah just alluded to, passed the budget in June of 2025, not really knowing a lot with respect to the amount of foundation allowance we would receive, the number of students we would have in the district. And so we made some estimates as to what those would look like. And while we hit on some of those estimates, there were some things that were clearly more expensive than we were hoping for. So we presented an original budget that called for using about $2 million in expenditures over revenue, and this is adjusted to a little over $5 million in expenditures over revenue. Next slide, please. So we'll talk about the revenue first. So we did receive $342 more than we budgeted in a per pupil. The state did provide us with a healthcare offset. There were 28 more students than we had originally accounted for, and then some smaller increases in PA 18 and property tax. The biggest cut that we were aware of that was a pretty deep cut was in the MIPSR's cost offset, so that was a $5 million hit in revenue. And so that was the biggest item that really set us back from where we were hoping for less than $5 million in a cut for that. So we also had MIPSR's one-time deposit that was no longer carried forward. A little bit of Headley obligation, they had corrected an amount that was passed due to us and didn't carry that forward. I'm still speaking with the state of Michigan on that because I feel like they owe us that money going forward, and then a couple other smaller decreases. We actually are now about 3% less in revenue than where we were a year ago. So as again, Dr. Salah alluded to, the day-to-day business is seeing 3% less revenue than budgeted or accounted for in the 24-25 school year. Next slide, please. Then we talk about the expenditures, and again, we had negotiations that took place, some before the budget was finalized, and then again, a lot of activity even after the budget was finalized by the board. The negotiated payroll increases and our salary true-up was pretty spot on for what we had talked about as a group. We did have some UAAL expense, which has a corresponding revenue component. We had some additional textbooks that were purchased from our teaching and learning technology department. We did pull some safety and security expenses back into the general fund. We'll have some additional conversation tomorrow at our board study session, but we did have to pull part of our contracts with our SROs back into the general fund, and we also moved Rosie, our dog, as well into that. We had a reduction in retirement rate. We did see some savings in our M&O and our transportation budgets. There was some savings and some restructuring of our instructional administration, and then some smaller dollar amounts that were less than $100,000 that we've noted on there for purchase services. And then we did save the $30,000 that this board took action on a couple months ago with our summer tax collection fees. So increasing expenditures to the tune of $2.7 million for, again, when you're looking at this revenue and expenditures, our revenues are down 3% and our expenses are up 3%. So happy to do the additional salaries for our staff, which is much deserved, and trying to keep up with the economy and having a desire to attract and retain staff. But if you could go to the last slide for me, again, to recap, we're projecting a fund balance that could be around 13%. If I want the board to remember that over the last 3 years, we've been better than what we've budgeted to the tune of 3%, 5%, and 7%. So over the last several years, I try to give the board the worst case scenario so that we can come out better than expected, and I'm still confident that we'll be able to do that in the 25-26 year. We just unfortunately did not have the budget that we were hoping for with the 25-26 school year, or 25-26, and therefore are projecting using more of our fund balance than we had hoped for originally. So that's where we're at on the general fund, and then we do have it's not a presentation, but we are asking for the board under consent agenda to consider our federal and state grants, and so what we've done is just trued those dollars up as well, and are asking you to consider the 13 and some change $1 million in federal and state grants. We will also have a discussion on those tomorrow night, and have provided some detail as to Huron Valley School staff that we're utilizing for those grants, and what the purpose of each of those grants are and how we've utilized them, and we'll have further discussion at our board study session. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions? Yes, sir, Mr. Wiseman.
Yes, I don't have any questions. I just want to let the rest of the board know that our finance and operations team had an opportunity to go through the budget with Jeffrey and our superintendent, Dr. Salah. I think it was last week. Asked a number of questions as it related to this. I think it's important to note and reiterate that when we originally adopted this budget back in June, we did not know what our funding was going to be. It's one heck of a way of running a business, but we're beholden to the state, and our school year begins in July. We have to adopt a budget in June, and they didn't approve our budget until October. At the same time, we were still negotiating contracts. So when we adopted that budget, we adopted a budget not knowing what our enrollment was, what our foundation was going to be, nor what our cost was going to be as it related to the 85% that Dr. Salah talked about. So I think that it's important to note that. At the same time, I congratulate Jeffrey and his team. I see Heather out in the audience. That our budget usually comes in better than what we expect it to be. You can see that from our audit, we came in at about 19%, correct, Jeffrey?
Correct.
And originally, the budget, what was our fund balance originally going to be before the audit? Do you remember?
We had thought we'd be closer to 15% at the end of last year, but again, our numbers
So it's
were
about $3.5 million better than what we anticipated. I would hope that we're following that same methodology this year, and even though we see our fund balance going down, that we can continue our fund balance to be one that provides benefits that's appropriate for a district our size. So those were just really comments. We did spend a lot of time going through this. Obviously, there are a lot of challenges that we have as it relates to not only this year's budget, but for next year's budget and beyond, and that's why we're spending some time tomorrow night to go over the budget, which is one of the goals that the superintendent has provided to us.
I think it's important to note that, I'm very confident that we will use some of our fund balance. I'm also hopeful that it won't be to the extent that we've shown in our estimates here. And again, to follow up with Dr. Salah's comment, I have calculated what it would be if we were to receive all of the money that was allocated towards higher education. That would be $10 million for the district. That would be general fund available. So even if they were to give us half of that back, you're looking at about $5 million in per pupil funding, which really negates any of this conversation. I know that we're seeing a budget that's about $5 million in expenditures over revenue, but personally a little disappointed that, the funding, at least in the governor's proposal, is the way it is. I'm one of those always grateful that they're going to provide us with some new funding, but am feeling a little challenged in that, such a big dollar amount that would have such a huge impact on the schools is at least out there in the opening round of budget conversations. So a couple big numbers, in my opinion, for the board to consider. And, as a taxpayer, I'm definitely going to advocate that we, are keeping K-12 dollars in K-12 schools if we can.
And I think it's important to note that I know our governor and has talked about increases in foundation. While I concur with you, and I understand where you're coming from as it relates to, we'll take every dollar we possibly can to help educate our students. We also take a look at what the net increase is. And when they talk about $450 per student increase in foundation, we really did not receive $450 because there were a variety of offsets as it related to that $450 and costs that we incurred as a school district that we did not incur the year before. So I think it netted out to be about $100 per student when it was all said and done.
Yeah, like even under that, Tom, so more like $50 per pupil when you look at the ins and outs of the state budget at least.
Yes, thank you very much.
Go ahead.
So we're 5.4 coming out of our fund balance, 5.4 million coming out of our fund balance. Obviously, no one has a crystal ball. But if our funding remains the same and our expenses remain similar, if we lost another 5.4 million, that would put our fund balance at 6 million, which is significantly less than what we need to be. And so obviously, hard discussions tomorrow as we look at our board discussions there. My question is, I guess, what are you thinking if there is any possibility of that revenue increasing? Because if the revenue doesn't increase, we got to cut expenses. And obviously, you don't have a crystal ball, but I also know you are an excellent networker with the people that you work with on the business office side. Any thoughts? Because that's a little scary to me, going from 2024-25 and having a $5 million deficit.
Yeah, so I would think that there will be some net benefit. I'm encouraged seeing for the first time in 5 or 6 years that our kindergarten totals as we speak are higher than the outgoing seniors, and we've been seeing an uptick in kindergarten students. So part of our challenge has been, even if the government has given us a raise in the foundation allowance, we'll lose that and then some as a result of less students. We had 30 students better than we budgeted for this year, so I'm more confident that we'll be pretty close to flat just as a result of the number of people who have signed up for wanting to come to kindergarten. We've been doing a good job of making junior kindergarten a priority over the last 8 to 9 years, really. So I'm encouraged by some things that I'm seeing, and we'll have a business official meeting at the county level in 4 days. I'm gonna bring it up, and we usually have like an open round table. I'm usually pretty communicative in that and want to get a feel for other people, because we had some districts who didn't do any raises for their staff and are still feeling that. But the numbers that came back from the state of Michigan, no one was like nailing that with no one got that perfect. And so we talked about using fund balance. I think we're not going to use the fund balance that we've budgeted for here, but and at least in my practice I've always worked in, this is what our POs call for, but I don't think we're going to spend all that. We haven't done that. I think our fund balance, if we keep at this pace, will be closer to 10%, which was part of the range we talked about before. If I projected right now, Amy, and we hit these worst case scenarios, we'd be at 7%. So that would be a challenge for us. So right on the heels of that is our conversation around expenses. And, you're going to ask difficult questions. I expect that, and we're going to give you, answers as to what we think would be good for that, because I don't like seeing this number either. I think it's really important that the 85% that our staff is able, because again, if we do flat or ask for money back when everybody else is giving raises, we're not gonna have staff. So it's a delicate balance of where we're at as a district in comparison with others, but I'm proud of the work that the negotiating team has done with all of these groups. I'm proud that we have all of our employees are HVS employees, because we're one of a handful of districts in the state of Michigan that can say that. But then you have to have harder conversations. I think we've been really fortunate the last 4 to 5 years too, in that there's been more funding than 5 to 7 years ago. And now we need to get back to what is really important. And, you know, from the administrative perspective as well as the Board of Education, those priorities are gonna drive how we spend dollars. And I can make any numbers work. It's difficult when we lose 3% and our expenses go up 3%. So that's a bad formula, as you know. So.
All right, good. Thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you, Paul. All right, moving on. Student leadership.
No student leadership tonight.
Okey-doke. And our association communication, she's busy doing Huron Valley Schools recruitment work right now, so she will not be here this evening. Board correspondence.
No correspondence tonight.
All right, treasurer's report.
I think Jeffrey did a fine job.
He did.
But I certainly don't have a presentation that even compares with our president's presentation as related to advocacy. But on behalf of the board as treasurer, I did have the opportunity to attend a labor relations workshop a couple Fridays ago. Some of the things that were talked about were bargaining strategies as related to Board of Education. It was attended by probably about 50% superintendents, 50% board members. Other items that were talked about were personnel files and the law, how to prepare for negotiations, PRMR as it related to the Teacher Tenure Act. So it was a very well attended, very useful, and I do have a variety of PowerPoints that were presented, so if anybody would like to see them, I have them available. I think the one item that was brought up towards the end was our MASB legal expert, Mr. Banasic, who brought us up to date as it relates to the various legal aspects of running a school district. So that was February 27th.
All right, thank you very
Fridays
much.
ago.
Okay, moving on to reports from board committees. I'll start with the executive committee meeting minutes. We met on March 5th at 11 at the administration building. Started the meeting at 11:07. Present were myself, Mr. Wiseman, Ms. Cotter, Dr. Salah, Mr. Van Gotham, Ms. Cadell, Mr. Endicott, Mr. Twig. No absences, no public comment. On the regular agenda, we discussed tonight's board meeting, reviewed the agenda in anticipation for this evening. We also discussed the agenda for tomorrow's board study session. Mr. Wiseman requested the admin do their best to forecast 26-27 and enrollment. Dr. Salah shared that the admin would do the best they could with a very limited information available this time of year. E-rate firewall renewal. Mr. Endicott, Mr. Twig presented the committee E-rate firewall renewal bid from Delta Network Services. Committee approved renewal being brought as new business on tonight's board meeting. We did not have anything to report under school safety and security. We reviewed the dedication booklet. The committee reviewed the booklet being presented to Dr. Karate at the dedication of the new Huron Valley Schools Administrative Services Center in anticipation of the upcoming event. Exec committee offered a few minor updates. Ms. Cadell and Dr. Salah will follow up with the communications team. Legislative advocacy, community discussed reaching out to Rep. Ann Bolin, who serves on the House Appropriations Committee, to build a relationship with our representative and discuss how the state budget and its impact on education. Dr. Salah will reach out to her office to set something up. Board goals, committee discussed reviewing how student leaders participate with the board and consider additional ways in which students may interact and be involved with the board. President Dodd proposed a concept that would engage student body through its election of officers process, perhaps including student representative that run specifically to be represented on the board. Just an idea. Dr. Salah will invite principals to attend the next executive meeting to brainstorm some possibilities. Community forum, we discussed already, will be March 24th at Heritage, March 25th at Lakewood. 31AA update, Dr. Salah shared that the appeal is expected to take place sometime in March. He will provide updates to the board as more information becomes available. Bond issue, middle school timeline, Dr. Salah shared that the middle school construction approval is anticipated to come to the board in April. While there may be some modifications to the original proposal, the overall timeline remains unchanged. Administrative office move, Dr. Salah updated the committee that the move has been delayed due to a few complications. Additional details will be shared with the board this Friday in board notes. Under other, Mr. Van Gotham informed the committee that Highland Township has shown interest in purchasing the former Highland Middle School property. The executive committee approved securing the offer for subcommittees to review before bringing to the board for consideration. We adjourned at 12:57. Our next meeting is on March 26th at 9 a.m. Next, TLT.
TLT met February 11th. We met at the Apollo Early Childhood Center. It was meeting called to order at 9:05. Present were myself, Ms. Grisomkowski, Ms. Cotter, Dr. Nemeth, Dr. Salah, Mr. Endicott, Mr. Lindberg, Ms. Bjorkman, and Ms. Horwitz. There was no public comment, no unfinished business. The new business was Ms. Kidd reviewed the district's early childhood programs, including early on services for children from birth to age 2, ECSE preschool for ages 3 to 5, and the grant-funded GSRP for income-eligible preschoolers. She also highlighted fee-based childcare, preschool, summer camp, and before and after school care options. The board members got to tour the early Apollo Childhood Center. I think we all had a good time doing it, too. Standing agenda items, we didn't have anything to report under strategic plan updates, safety and security updates, student support services, or student leadership. There were no other items, and we adjourned at 9:53. Our next meeting is this Wednesday, March 11th at 9:30. Sorry, 9 o'clock.
All right, thanks very much. Finance and operations, can't remember if we already did that one or not, hadn't.
Finance and Operations Committee met on Wednesday, March 4th, 2026 at 415 Administrative Office. In attendance were members Wiseman, Member Dimick, along with Dr. Salah, Mr. Van Gothen, Mr. Reby, Ms. Kerrigan, Mr. Endicott, Ms. Moore, and Becky Timberlake, Tyler Maxwell, Mike Miller from Clark Construction, and Bill Weinrock from TMP, and Paul Twiggs from Barton Mallow. There were no public comments. We reviewed the minutes from the previous meeting, and our regular agenda consisted of the consent agenda that was presented tonight by Mr. Van Gothen, along with the state and federal grant. We also discussed the unfinished business that will be presented to us tonight as it related to unfinished business for a vote. There were no further questions from the committee as it relates to the recommendations that are before you tonight. In addition, we also had a discussion and there will be under unfinished business a White Lake Middle School addition and remodeling interior flat work. The committee discussed Clark Construction's recommendation letter and bid tab summary for bid pack 2401A. Administration is asking the board to approve the letter of recommendation dated March 3rd, 2026 to McCarthy Construction Company in the amount of $1,016,455, which also included the 15% contingency and a 2.5% general condition. This project is funded from the 23 capital project, and this is all part of the White Lake Middle School that was approved as it related to the addition and remodeling at the last board meeting. Under new business was the asbestos abatement at the White Lake Middle School. The committee discussed Nova Environmental's incorporated recommendation letter dated March 2nd, 2026, and is asking the board to review the contract to environmental maintenance engineers in the amount of $99,500 along with the associated contingency funds. The project is funded through the 23 capital project fund, and the administration will seek approval at the March 23rd board meeting. We also had a discussion regarding the E-rate firewall. The committee discussed the E-rate request for proposal for the firewall licensing and support. One bid was received from Delta Network Services, the company that installed and currently supports our appliances. We can leverage the federal E-rate program to partially subsidize these costs with an expected 29% rebate to the district. The administration is asking the board to approve the E-rate firewall license support purchase for $59,384.94 to Delta Networks at the March 23rd board meeting. There are no further updates as it relates to safety and security. Other items related to the bond issue, Ms. Timberlake, along with Mr. Miller from Clark Construction, discussed the 2019 bond renovation remaining contingencies, contingency and general report use reports. Bill Weinbrock from TMP gave construction updates on the pool filters remaining work and contingency usage. Clark also updated us as related to the White Lake Middle School. And I believe yesterday, actually the frost laws were lifted within our county so that we can go ahead and begin construction. Yes. Saw that on the news. New middle school update. The committee received an updated bid schedule timeline with bids due on March 12th, 26, 2 reads in April for final approval and construction to begin at the end of May of 2026. The Huron Valley School Administrative Service Center relocation update was given. Construction is progressing as planned, and there is a potential for a slight delay, as was mentioned, regarding some work. 2024 bond issue first series discussion. Mr. Van Gothen updated the committee on bid pack status and funding updates in regards to the first series of the 24 bond issue, highlighting projects taking shape within the district. Mr. Endicott gave the committee an update as related to requesting funding from WOCCA, which is, I believe, our cabling company, our cabling partnership that we have, as it relates to some updates regarding our video production and related media programs. There's been a request for funding through this organization for a cost of $50,566 that would be to benefit not only our district but to our community, and would be refunded back to us from that organization. The meeting adjourned at 6 o'clock. Our next meeting will be March 18th, 2026 at 4:15.
Thank you, Mr. Wiseman. Ad hoc committee, I know you might have an announcement about an upcoming meeting.
We are meeting tomorrow, 2:30, admin office. Join us. It'll be so fun.
It will be. All right, next we have public comment. I have not received any public comment forms. I'll pause for just a second to see if I see anyone running to the public comment forms over by the door. I do not. Okay, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. Can I please have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Sure. I move the Board of Education approve consent agenda items A1 through A4 as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Ryan. Do we have support?
I'll support.
Jacob's going to support. Mr. Dimick's going to support. I'm working hard on Mr.ing and Mrs.ing right now. All right, do we have discussion about the consent agenda? All right, let's take a roll call vote, please.
Ms. Ryan,
Yes.
Mr. Dimick,
Yes.
Mr. Wiseman,
Yes.
Ms. Cotter,
Yes.
Ms. Grzymkowski.
Yes.
I am a yes. Ms. Dodd.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you very much. Moving on down to unfinished business, we're going to start talking about Bid Pack 24-01A. Who's going to talk about it?
Jeffrey's going to talk about it.
Okay. Tom looked like he wanted to talk about it. He was,
No, I was going to do a motion.
we'll have our little presentation here first, and then we'll go for it.
So we had discussed at Finance and Operations as well as with the board that, in particular, this bid category, the flat work, which is a lot of concrete work at the actual site, we didn't receive bids that we were really all that excited about. One of the bidders had missed a key piece of some of the things we needed done with the concrete work, so we decided to rebid that category. So we had talked about this before in our F&O committee as well as at the board. We had this rebid. We went through this in pretty good detail at the F&O committee meeting on Wednesday this past week. We're happy with the bid we did receive from McCarthy Construction. Because this is coming back to the board, and we passed on it the first time, we put it in unfinished business. We think one reading, again, based on committee, was sufficient. We're asking for 15% contingency. It's important to note for the board and the community that because White Lake is very unique and that we're building, in my opinion, a brand-new middle school on top of the existing structure, that we're asking for a little bit additional contingency for some unknowns. The typical 2.5% general conditions for a total of $1,016,454. And that's about it, so.
All right, thanks very much. So let's get a motion. Mr. Wiseman?
Yes, I move that the Board of Education approve bid pack 24-01A, which is the White Lake Middle School addition and remodeling concrete package as presented.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have support?
I'll support.
Thank you, Ms. Ryan. All right, let's open it up for conversation. It seems like the Finance and Operations Committee has had a good debrief, and we have a great Finance and Operations Committee, so happy to open it up for discussion if we have any. Yes, Ms. Grisomkowski.
McCarthy Construction Company, I don't know why I took my glasses off, I can't read without them. But have they done any work for us in the past, or are they doing any additional work around the district?
So they have done some additional work on the previous bid packs over the last 6 years, and again, because we don't have the bids back on the new middle school, I would anticipate that they would be bidding on that work as well, and we've been pleased with the work that they've done thus far.
Great. Other questions? Comments? Okay, let's go ahead and take a roll call vote.
Mr. Wiseman.
Yes.
Ms. Ryan.
Yes.
I am a yes. Ms. Grisomkowski.
Yes.
Mr. Demick.
Yes.
Ms. Cotter.
Yes.
Ms. Dodd.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you very much. Moving on to structured cabling, which we enjoyed hearing a presentation about last time.
Yes, I have not received any specific questions about this line item, Madam President. Dr. Nemeth, have you,
No.
Scott, have you received anything? Yeah, so seeing no questions thus far, we would ask for approval as presented.
Got it. All right, looking for a motion for structured cabling.
I'll make a motion that we approve the structured cabling that's before us.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Grisomkowski. Do we have support?
I'll support.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Ryan. Any discussion of structured cabling? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote.
Ms. Grisomkowski.
Yes.
Ms. Ryan.
Yes.
Mr. Wiseman.
Yes.
Ms. Cotter.
Yes.
Mr. Demick.
Yes.
I am a yes. Ms. Dodd.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Moving on to fiber maintenance. Does not have to do with your diet or your yarn stash. Sorry, had to do it.
That was good.
Thank you. Thank you.
That was a good pull.
I'm proud of it, really.
That's really good.
Little humor, very little.
Okay, fiber maintenance. We had a presentation about this at our last meeting. I think we'll do the same thing. Have you received any questions? Nope? 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 All right, let's take a motion and a second, and then we can discuss if we have any discussion. Can I get a motion for fiber maintenance? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I move that the Board of Education approve the fiber maintenance as presented, excluding the jokes from our.
All right. Do we have support?
I'll support. Oh,
Ooh. All right, Mr. Dimick supports. Thank you so much. Any conversations about fiber? I just can't help myself. It's important. Okey doke, let's take a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Wiseman.
Yes.
Mr. Dimick.
Yes.
Ms. Cotter.
Yes.
I am a yes. Ms. Grisomkowski.
Yes.
Ms. Ryan.
yes.
Ms. Dodd.
Yes.
Motion passed.
All right. Moving on down to new business, starting with asbestos abatement at White Lake Middle School.
Yes, thank you. I'd ask Mr. Van Gotham to speak to this item.
Thank you, Dr. Salah. So, believe it or not, we still have some asbestos in some of our buildings. For those of us that went to school in the 80s and 90s, a lot of our building was filled with asbestos, and so we've done a good job over the last 30 years of removing most, if not all of it, in spaces. So this particular work at White Lake Middle School will focus on some select flooring, some caulking, and some designated doors that we have that still have some asbestos. Our partners, Nova Environmental, on an annual basis, look at the asbestos that really sits in all of our spaces and kind of evaluates whether it's been disturbed or not, and whether we need to take action on some of these prior to doing major work like bond work. In this particular case, White Lake has been in really good shape, so this is just work that can now be done as a part of the reimagining of that space. So we bid that out separately from our overall building work, and we were pleased to receive several bids. We had 6 of those, and Nova, again, as our partner, has recommended that we use environmental maintenance engineers at a base bid price of $99,500. This work will take place throughout the summertime, and then again as we're moving throughout that building over the next couple years. And so this is a first read. We are not asking for final approval, and that's where we stand.
Great. Questions about asbestos abatement at White Lake Middle School? The one thing I have learned about asbestos as a board member is, and we ask this every time, why are we removing it now? Why didn't we just remove all the asbestos in the beginning? And the answer is, you already kind of said it. It is only a problem at this point when it's disturbed or broken, so we remove it when we get there and we need to. Any idea of how much asbestos is left?
I want to say, President Dodd, that with the work we're doing over the last 6 years and the work that we'll continue to do with this bond, that we will remove all of said asbestos to the best that we can. So I'm hoping that as we do some of these projects, with all of the bond work we've done in our elementaries, our secondary high school focus, obviously because we are just now working through the middle schools, for the most part, it will be gone. I don't know what else will really be left, because when you're dealing with caulking and some minor flooring, we've been replacing the flooring. We've been doing our best to get new doors in place. So with a fairly level of certainty, we're kind of taking care of it as we go through these rounds of work. I'll be surprised if something else pops up from the asbestos family. I feel like we're taking care of the heavy hitters here with what we have left.
That's good. Good. Thank you. I appreciate that. Anything else? All right. Well, as always, take these next few weeks before our next board meeting to review the proposal and reach out to Dr. Salah and/or Mr. Van Gotham with questions. All right. Finally, E-rate firewall renewal.
Yes, and I would ask Dr. Nemeth to handle this item, and I believe Mr. Endicott is heading to the podium for this item.
Okay, so this Exhibit F is also a first read regarding a renewal for the firewall. So Mr. Endicott is back up at the podium to answer any questions related to this annual license that is replacing our 5-year license for the firewall.
Hello again. This is a kind of a normal licensing and support renewal. This hasn't been a cost for us in previous years because 5 years ago we replaced the district firewalls in our data center, and that was bundled with 5-year licensing and support. So we have next business day support, which is part of this renewal also. So what would happen if one of our firewalls goes down, we would expect a replacement on the next business day. So this is for 1 year of licensing and support. The total is going to be $59,381.94, and then we expect 29% E-rate eligibility, so a rebate of $17,220.76. That's just over $17,000 as a rebate. So these firewalls are perfectly in great shape. They're viable, and they're exactly what we would be purchasing today if we had to make the purchase. So they're not at the end of their life, so we just require this software agreement for the 1 year. Questions?
Thank you. Questions? Mr. Wiseman.
What is a firewall?
This prevents us, a couple things. This prevents people coming in that we don't want in. It also prevents things from going out that we don't want out. A firewall is necessary for SIPA compliance. Children's Internet Protection Act requires us that we're always filtering. The main function of a firewall is to filter content, meaning keeping things out that we don't want students to have access to. So that's one important key that we have to maintain this. So that's it in a nutshell.
And it's really an integral part of our instructional program within our district, because obviously, as Member Grzynkowski mentioned, we are a one-on-one school district now, and there is a lot of technology, and it is a teaching tool. So without those precautions, our students would be at risk.
Yeah, with devices in students' hands, we need to make sure that our internet is safe for them to consume. And so these are fully configurable firewalls. They get updates constantly. We can also make updates as we go. So for instance, if the board or as a technology group, we decided we're not going to allow this website or that this company, we can also do those things manually, but it always gets maintained by the company that, the manufacturer.
All right, thank you.
Yes,
Hey,
Ms.
Scott,
Costello.
thank you for your presentation. Sorry, I didn't see you.
Go ahead.
You want your question? Okay. Scott, so this is for 1 year. Do we get a better deal if we go more than 1 year? Like we have in the past?
The way the RFP was written, we did it 1 year. Normally, they don't like to do if they're doing the renewals.
Okay.
We may have been able to do a 3-year contract. The problem is, at that time, maybe it would make more sense to do a bond purchase of new firewalls. But this really isn't the time to do that.
Okay.
So we'll kind of, next year around this time, we'll sort of make that decision.
Okay,
And see
great.
what makes sense.
Thanks.
Now, Mr. Dimick.
My apologies.
That's okay.
And also, you pretty much hit my question. I was just going to ask about the longevity of the contract to see if there was a possibility to go longer, and just to hit on that, so.
Yeah, the way this was written, the RFP was written for a 1 year with the intention of next year at this time, we do an evaluation and determine whether or not it makes sense to buy new hardware.
Great, thank you. Mrs. Griswold.
Quick question as the sun's going down. How much is a firewall? Because this is a subscription for like making sure that it doesn't go down, right? Okay, so how much is a firewall?
The last time, when we purchased these 5 years ago, I believe it was in the neighborhood of $200,000, including the support. That's incredibly higher now, though. In addition, when we spec'd these initially, this was, go back 5 years, we were implementing one-to-one, coming, in the heart of COVID in 2021. So we really over-spec'd this, I think. It's possible that the next time we go out for bid, we don't do redundant firewalls. We rely on the next business day. We have 2 firewalls, which means 2 licenses. So this cost, had we just purchased 1 firewall back 5 years ago. But at that time, we also weren't sure whether we would use these in tandem and they would be required for the increased bandwidth of all these devices that were on our network. So, we were sort of thoughtful back then to oversize a little bit. But the conversation may be different in the next year or so as these, sort of age and we decide what's best.
Good questions. All right, if there are more questions, you have a few weeks, and you can ask those questions over the next few weeks of Mr. Twigg, Ms. Nemeth, Dr. Nemeth, I always forget to doctor you, or Dr. Salah. Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate
thanks.
it. All right, moving on to our second version of public comment. Anyone? I always give a second, just in case something hits. Nope, okay. And moving on to good and welfare. Do we have good and welfare? Yes.
Thank you. I'm sorry I have 3 of them. Well, no, I guess I'm not sorry. That's good. I have 3. The first one is we had district parent council this morning, and a decent turnout and lots of good conversation. So it's always nice, and if anybody's interested, go talk to your principal because we could use some more faces. Also, last weekend, I went to the play Letters to Sala. I think Laura did too. Very moving, very heavy, but the kids did a great job. It was fantastic. And then the last thing is the Huron Valley, it used to be called Huron Valley Council of the Arts. It is now called Huron Valley Arts, is having an Action Fun Day on March 21st from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. It's a fun, hands-on community event for all ages. They are in Highland on West Livingston Road. You can enjoy art and craft demonstration, including hands-on weaving. Our former board member Denise Forrest has weaving projects for kids and adults. Make and take art activities for adults and kids, a Mario Kart games, art trivia with prizes, and quick lightning talks on AI in the arts. So, yeah, bring a friend and come make art with us, with them.
You better be there now that you said us. That's right. Other good and welfare. Okay, I have two. I had, Tom, you do. Good.
Since one of the things that we always talk about is how proud we are that we are a AAA school district, that we focus on the academics, the arts, and athletics. Tonight, I'd like to just talk a moment about some ambassadors as it relates to our district that are athletes, but more importantly, they're student athletes. The first two that I would like to call out are young ladies that represented both Lakeland and Milford on the basketball court. They both reached the district finals, and they were great ambassadors to our district, so congratulations to our ladies. I know Milford High School young ladies had one of the best records that they've ever had. I think they won 19 games during the course of the year. And Lakeland, while they had a successful school year, one individual broke all the records as it relates to scoring that dates back to 1999, and that's Auburn Miller. Not only did she break the record, but she exceeded 1,000 points in her career. So way to go, Auburn. And the other thing that I do want to point out to everyone is I believe it's the Milford Unified basketball team. This is a group of students that bring our student body together. And they had an opportunity to show their wherewithal on the basketball court for the Detroit Pistons this past week. So I know that it's something that's very unique to our district as it relates to our student body and students that have special needs, and they work together as a team, and they were able to show their wear and their collaboration on the courts in downtown Detroit. So I just wanted to point those three things out.
Thank you. I'm glad you didn't take my sports update. I actually have a sports update this time. Get ready for it. This Saturday, Milford High School hosted the state gymnastics tournament. On Friday was team tournament and Saturday was individuals. I attended Saturday for individuals. And I want to give a huge congratulations Huron Valley United, Milford and Lakeland and all of our high schools all together. The team placed fifth, which is pretty spectacular. Heartland, we celebrate you. You did a great job over there doing your Heartland things. I think because Bounce is there, you know. They've got a good heritage they did a great job. But then as it relates to students in the individual competition, we had a Huron Valley student, Stella Musilowski, who placed second as an individual and all around. Second place. She placed in the top 6 for vault, bars, beam, and floor. I caught a glimpse of her a couple of times, and every time I did, her confidence, poise, and her team's support and everything was really spectacular. So congratulations to the Huron Valley United Gymnastics team. And also, I also was at Letters from Sala, and the other musical performance we have going on is the complete opposite of that. Willy Wonka this weekend. Muir Middle School is presenting Willy Wonka Friday and Saturday nights at 7. And Saturday and Sunday at 2 for matinees at the Little Theater at Milford High School. If there is no other good and welfare, we're going to adjourn. Have a lovely evening.